Welcome to That Solo Life. I'm Karen Swim, president of Solo PR Pro.
And I'm Michelle Kane of Voice Matters. And Karen, I have a question for you. Or actually, I want to start today with a statement. And I think it's something that a lot of our listeners have either said out loud or are saying to themselves these days.
Ooh, okay, go.
Okay, here goes. I'm 5 years away from wrapping up my wonderful solo PR career, and I just can't, I don't have it in me to learn one more new tool. I'm done.
Yeah, that one lands.
Right, right. It's not a small thing, right? There's a whole group of solos. And, these are brilliant, accomplished people. They're, as we say in our private group, the smarties. And, for those that are in their last stretch of client work, they can see retirement on the horizon. The message they're hearing everywhere these days is keep up or get left behind.
Yeah,
Mm,
and we have to push back on that today
yeah,
hard
yeah.
because the people with the most experience are very often the ones best positioned to use these new tools well. They just don't always believe it yet.
Right. So today we're going to talk about how to stay relevant, keep delivering real value in this last stretch of your career without setting yourself on fire chasing every shiny new thing.
Mhm. How to know what you can safely ignore, what's actually worth adopting, and the mindset that carries you all the way to the finish line. All right, let's get into it.
So, Karen, I want to take a minute on the hard part for a second before we go
Mhm.
fixing anything because I think it matters.
Agreed, because this feeling, the I'm tired, I don't have the bandwidth, that is not laziness and it's definitely not fear of change.
No, no. I mean, we know these people. Some days we are these people. And, what we've already lived through, gosh, 4 or 5 complete technology revolutions in one career. That's why we're tired.
At least. I mean, think about it. If you've been doing this for 30 years, you went from typewriters to desktop publishing, fax machines to email, print media to social, and now AI on top of all of it.
Right. So if you're sitting there thinking, can I even learn this stuff? Well, let's get real. The answer is yeah, because you've done it over and over and over again. You've proven it. So yeah, you
Mhm.
can.
And so, what that means is the real question isn't, can I learn it? It's how much of this do I actually need to learn? And how do I protect my energy for the parts that matter most?
That's right there, protecting our energy. And that's a completely different question.
It is. And I want to name something very real here because there is a gap and it's measurable. The National Bureau of Economic Research, they ran this big nationally representative survey on who's actually using these AI tools at work. And the usage drops with age. But for workers under 40, it was about 34%. For workers 50 and up, it was about 17%.
So basically it's cut in half.
Cut in half.
Mm,
But that gap is not about ability.
mm.
When you dig into the research, it's about confidence and it's about on ramps. Nobody handed experienced pros a door that says start here.
And for real, nobody's telling our pros, no one's telling us what we're allowed to skip. Everyone in the space is selling urgency.
Right. I mean, everyone is selling, you're behind. Nobody's selling discernment.
No, exactly. And discernment is the thing you've spent your whole career building. So,
Yeah. And that this is the perfect place to bust the biggest myth.
yes. So that myth, say it plain, Karen Swim.
The myth we want to kill is experience is a liability now. And that myth, what it's saying is that as you go further along in your career, it means you're slower, you're behind, you're less valuable in an AI world.
No. And in truth, it's the reality is complete opposite.
It really is.
Yeah.
And so here's the logic for that. As these tools make the actual production of work nearly free or lower cost, whatever, the drafting, summarizing, first pass research, all of it, the thing that becomes scarce and valuable is judgment. Knowing what's worth doing, knowing what's true, knowing what will land with a reporter and what will blow up in a client's face.
And that's the thing that experience buys you, knowing how to prompt so your quick and dirty graphic doesn't look like AI slop, right? You can't shortcut this stuff. You have to know it.
Yeah. You really cannot prompt your way to 30 years of pattern recognition. And the
Mm-mm.
research backs this up in places you'd never expect. There was a study out of the University of Mannheim that looked at workers at a BMW plant. And so this is a real physical demanding environment. And they found that productivity actually increased as workers got older, right up to retirement,
Wow. What do you think was driving that?
because the veterans know where to focus. They knew which problems were
Mhm.
going to be expensive and they headed them off before they happened. Fewer costly mistakes.
That's the judgment. And that's exactly what you just said. And if I could add, Ford is going through this right now, hiring back their so called graybeards.
I'm seeing
Yep.
that here in Michigan in a lot of different companies. So you're absolutely right. And when I speak to those people that are being hired back and in demand, and they want them to come back full time, were like retired. They're like, and they're working, 40, 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
So that is real. And there was a
Yeah.
study at North Carolina State that looked at software developers. Now, you don't get any closer to that notion of a young person's game than software development, right?
Right.
So but here is a surprise. The study found that the older programmers actually knew a wider range of topics, answered questions better, and in some cases were more adept with the newer systems.
Well, sure, because they know all the ancient languages. So, and there we go again, the opposite of the stereotype.
Yeah. I mean, the researchers' theory was basically if you're fluent in the old technology, like you just said, you understand the new technology better because you get what problem it's solving.
Right. Now, translate that to our world. If you've lived through the death of the press release as the only tool in our box, right? You understand exactly what an AI search result is trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. And,
Hmm.
another piece that I love, it's about the mindset. There's research in a journal called Work, Aging, and Retirement, and they found that older workers tend to see their late career more in terms of development than decline.
I love that. Stick that on my forehead on a sticky note. Development, not decline.
I know. I love that too. That could honestly be our whole entire episode, right?
Okay, great. So we're done. No, actually, so let's reframe this, right? AI can generate, as we've said this before, it can't judge, it can't discern. And the judgment and the discernment is the one thing that you and me and our listeners out there are spending their careers building.
Yeah. So I want to, just encourage all of our senior PR pros out there. And by senior, I mean senior level, not senior citizen, but senior in your career, that
Right.
you're not behind the curve. You're holding the exact thing that the curve is racing toward.
Yep. Yep. So true. Okay. So let's frame this again. Let's get practical with it because I can hear someone saying, maybe it's me. That's great, but I still have 47 browser tabs of tools I'm supposed to learn. Where do I start?
Yeah. Well, you don't need to learn everything. You need a filter. And here's ours. 3 buckets. Ignore, adopt, and anchor.
Love it. Start with ignore. Okay, that's it. We're done now. But I think that's the relief of it, right? There are some
Yeah.
things we can ignore.
That is the permission slip. So ignore. First thing that you can let go of, the platform of the month. Every
Mm,
quarter, there's a new app everyone's panicking about. I can name a few, but it's been the flavor of the month, the flavor of the
Mhm.
quarter. If it's
Mhm.
actually durable, it'll still be there in a year, and it'll be clearer and easier to learn.
Right. So we don't have to be the early adopters. Let the early adopters be the beta testers and just ride it out. Looking at you, Clubhouse. Um, yeah.
So true. I mean, I agree. Let them have it. And
Yeah.
then, second, tool maximalism, right? You do not need 14 AI subscriptions. You just don't.
Mm.
One good, capable assistant covers the overwhelming majority of what you actually do.
Exactly. And third,
You don't have to become a technologist. I think that scares a lot of people.
yeah,
You
yeah, for
never
sure.
needed to understand how email worked under the hood to send an email. It's the same here. It's fluency, not engineering.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can think of a fourth actually that would be good to put into our prism is, you know, how they say don't make any decisions out of fear. Well, I say we give you permission to ignore anything you're only doing out of fear. If the only reason that you're chasing this tool is that you're scared of being left behind, that's the noise getting to you. So don't let that happen. Adopt from your strategy, not the panic. That honestly, the people trying to sell us this stuff are instilling. And we know this because sometimes we help create that urgency.
That's true. Michelle, that was so beautifully said. And, for anyone that's worried that opting out makes you a dinosaur, in PR specifically, the holdouts are a tiny group. Muckrock's research found that only about 7% of PR pros say they don't use AI and they don't plan to.
Wow.
That's so tiny. So you can be selective in what you're using without being a holdout. There's a lot of room in between that 7% and the rest
Yeah.
that of the crowd.
Yeah. Okay. So we've decided what we're ignoring. Yay. Now, bucket number two, adopt.
Yeah, these are the things that are genuinely worth your energy, right? Because they're not going away. So, number one, baseline AI fluency, taking one good AI assistant, using it to research, draft a first pass, summarize a long document, or pressure test an idea before you bring it to a client. And there's just so many more uses.
Yeah, yeah, and these are the table stakes right now. This is no longer exotic. It's a tool firmly in our arsenal right now for many of us.
Absolutely. So, the same Muckrack research found about 76% of PR pros, they're already using generative AI but mostly for writing and editing. So this is the mainstream of our profession now, not the frontier.
Right, right. And now the second thing we should adopt is
Understanding how people are actually finding information now. That's big. So the biggest
yeah,
real shift isn't a single tool. It's that audiences are increasingly getting answers straight from AI and from
yeah,
search instead of clicking through to a website. So we've talked
yes.
about this here. That changes what credibility even looks like, and it changes what your clients need from you.
And yeah, and you don't necessarily have to execute all of this yourself, like we've said many times about many things.
True, but you need to understand it well enough to
Yeah.
advise the client intelligently and to know when to bring in a partner. And there's a lot of firms specializing just in AI visibility popping up. So here's the urgency that has nothing to do with your age. The old channels are getting harder for everyone. 72% of PR pros blame low response rates from reporters, and
Yeah.
62% point to shrinking media lists.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the ground's been moving under all of us and it continues to do so. So, a 28-year-old PR pro is dealing with the same shrinking media list that a more seasoned, advanced in years PR pro is dealing with. We're all on this literally on the same playing field and for good and
We
bad.
are actually. You are so right. And so
Yeah.
adopting a few new approaches, that's not vanity. It's just the job now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, On to the third bucket, anchor. This is my favorite.
Ooh, so these are the things that you don't age out of. You actually get more valuable as the tools get cheaper. Your judgment, your relationships, the trust you've built over decades, that's a model that cannot reproduce. Your network, your storytelling and strategy, and your ethics, knowing what not to publish, when to
Yeah.
tell a client to stay quiet, how to catch the AI generated thing that is not confidently completely wrong.
Yeah. And that last one is becoming a job all in itself.
True story. True story. So here's the reframe for the whole framework. The new tools just handle the first draft. You handle the final judgment. That's one way to look at it. That's not a
Hmm.
demotion. That's the senior seat. You've earned the
Yeah.
editor's chair.
Yep. Yep. Oh, absolutely. So now let's shift to talking about the inner dialogue for a minute because these tactics only work if your head's in the right place. And well, when we talk to ourselves a lot during the day, talking about myself,
We
that can be
do.
a challenge.
And I think, we already said the first one, it's development, not decline. Treat these
Right.
last years as their own stage, not,
Yeah.
the long end where you're dragging your butt across the finish line. So if you were ever a marathon runner, this is not you're at mile 22 and 26 seems so far away. That's not it. You treat it like its own stage. And it has its own
Yeah.
strengths, the perspective, the candor, the freedom to actually say what you think in a client meeting.
Ooh, there's such a liberty and a real to being at that point where you can just tell the client the truth.
Oof, huge gift, huge gift. And that does not always come easily at 22.
No,
So,
no.
the second mindset shift, I think, is I won't try to say that one fast on air. That'll get us in trouble. But it's curiosity over mastery. You don't have to be the
Mhm.
best at the new thing. You just have to stay curious enough to remain conversant.
Yeah, and define conversant in this within this context because I think people set the bar too high sometimes.
Well,
Us
we're
we type
PROs. That's what
A's.
we do.
Yeah,
That's what we
exactly.
do. And so I'm going to say that the bar is you're never in a meeting where a term comes up and you have no idea what it means. Doesn't mean that you have to be the expert at it, but when somebody says AEO, you should you should know what that means. In the same way
Right,
that,
right.
we learn things like SEO, and we were not masters at
Yeah.
SEO. We were not masters at Wikipedia. We were not masters at these things, but at least we had the familiarity with what it was and how it could
Right.
play into what we did. That's not a
Yep.
very high bar.
No, no. And you know what? It's totally achievable and definitely takes the pressure off. I think we're always battling against feeling like we need to know everything about everything. Well, we don't.
We really don't. So, third
No.
thing, pick one tool, just one, and then go deep. So instead of 10 tools and being shallow and anxious, like I'm over here, I'm using Jasper and Perplexity and Chat and Claude and Gemini and Opus and Figma and Canva and Descript. My brain's going to blow up. One tool, just
Yep.
one tool. Depth
Yep.
in one beats a panic attack across many.
So true. And especially true for solos. You don't have to do it all yourself.
Yeah. Partner, don't martyr.
Ah! Okay, we have to get that branded on a sticker for Solo PR Pro.
I'm on it.
Partner, don't martyr. If there's an execution heavy new tactic, bring in a younger pro, someone you can mentor, or bring in a specialist. You've done this before with other things. We don't
Yeah.
all design websites to their perfection. So, right, we have people we work with. So, you bring the strategy and the judgment, they bring the hands on tooling. Everybody wins.
Yeah. And here's the good news Everyone is figuring this out at the same time. So the
Yeah.
training gap is real across every age group. Most workers say they want more AI training than they've actually gotten. So you're not behind some class that already graduated. There is no class. We're all in the room together.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last mindset piece, which kind of makes you really think about things. Wow.
Legacy.
Yeah. Legacy. The mentoring, the coaching, the teaching, the writing, the things that light us up as we share our craft with, those that are following behind us. That's not the consolation prize of winding down, and that's the way your judgment keeps compounding and really outlives your client roster.
Yeah. At this stage, the experience that you have really is the product. And honestly, this is exactly what we built the Solo PR Pro community around, having that private, safe place to ask the questions you don't want to ask out loud and
Yeah.
in front of a client or a prospect. Especially the wait, what is this thing? And do I even need it? Questions.
And we've all asked those in the group.
Yeah.
The
Wait,
point is
what is that?
the point is no one should have to navigate this stuff alone, and no one should have to pretend that they've got it all figured out. And the good news is you don't have to.
Yeah, that is the good news. So let's leave everybody with something they can actually do because I don't want anyone walking away inspired but stuck.
Okay, 3 things, small ones.
Okay, pick one AI assistant, just one, and use it for one real task this week. Whether it's summarizing a long report, drafting a first pass of a pitch, pressure test a strategy, one task, not a course, not a certification, just one task.
Excellent. 2, take your big, scary, I'm supposed to learn all of this list, and run it through our prism of the 3 buckets. Cross everything out that's in the ignore column and watch how much lighter that list gets. And suddenly it feels more manageable and you might even be excited about it.
Ugh, I feel the weights just flying off my shoulders right now. So, what's number three, Michelle?
3, have one conversation about partnering. Find one execution heavy thing that you keep avoiding and find a person to hand it to, not to learn it, but to delegate it. And I think this is probably one of the hardest things I ever face in my career, for sure.
You know, here's a little secret about that delegation piece, too. When
Mm,
you partner with someone else on another specialty service, you actually have a more robust set of services that you can sell.
it's
So
true.
don't sleep on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the bottom line for anybody that's in this last stretch who's tired, staying relevant does not mean keeping up with everything. It means getting ruthlessly clear about the few things that are actually worth your energy.
And trusting that the judgment that you spent a whole career building is exactly the thing this moment is short on.
That's good. And
Yes.
that's our show.
Yeah.
If this one resonated, do us a favor and share it with a fellow PR pro who's navigating this stage. They really need to hear it.
Yeah. Make sure you subscribe to That Solo Life wherever you listen. Please leave us a review. We want to hear from you guys. And come find us in the whole community at soloprpro.com.
Yeah. And before we let you go, here's our question for you this week. What's the one thing you've decided to stop worrying about keeping up with? We'd love for you to tag us on social media or email us, and we might actually read it on a future episode.
Awesome. And until next time, take care of yourselves.
That's the solo life.